Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we're sewing up the Quinn dress. This is a super cute dress and I am super excited about it. It's got a knit bodice, and then the bottom, the skirt, you can either use knit or woven to do the skirt. It's a 2-layer skirt. It's got a sash. It's got an option for flutters, which you can either use woven for, and cute sleeves. So I think it's going to be super, super cute and I can't wait to get to it. Alright, I've got all my pieces cut out, and like I said, I'm using woven for the skirt, the sash, and the flutters, and I'm using knit for my bodice and sleeve. So I've got both of my flutters because I'm using the 2 layers. We've got the top layer and the bottom layer. And what we're going to do first is we're going to finish our hem. So if you're using knit, you can either leave the hem raw, you can do a what is it called? A rolled hem. I couldn't even think of the word. You can hem with your cover stitch, however you want to do it. I am using woven, so I'm going to do 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch and then hem, because I don't want this to fray. Sometimes when I'm using woven, I will also do, like, I'll serge the edge and then I fold up so that the edge is not raw, because we have to be careful with woven. So once I'm gonna hem that, so I'm gonna iron that and hem it, and then we're gonna put in a gathering stitch on this top layer up here on all the ruffles, and we're gonna go ahead and gather them to fit a sleeve. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. For my gathering stitch, I'm going to pull some thread out the back. I'm going to change my stitch length to a 4, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start. I like to hold my thread up top, and it gives me a little bit of a gather while I'm doing it. I am going to be doing it, I gather like about at a 1/4 inch away from the edge, and then leave a big tail at the end as well. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and prep our bodice, and I'm going to put one of my bodices right side up on my mat. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell which is the right side of your knit fabric, so I like to stretch it out, and if I can see the grain line really good, then that's the right side. And then the other side, when you stretch it out, you can see the grain line, but it's kind of fuzzy, so that's how I can tell. So then I'm going to grab my bodice back, it's my sleeve, and put it right side down right on top of it. And we're going to match those shoulders, and we're going to sew those shoulders together. But before I go do that, we're going to prep our sleeve. We're going to grab our sleeve and fold it in half and mark our top. I like to mark my top because then when I go to put it on, I know exactly where it is. And I like to kind of put a little snip on there so I can see it. It's not anything big, but you can see it once you are once you're sewing it on, but with your seam allowance you'll get run over. I'm gonna grab my biggest ruffle, and usually I like to go ahead and match up and find a half where the half is. And my ruffle has already, I've gathered it, so I pulled on that bobbin stitch, then I gather it the width of the sleeve, and I'm matching that raw edge at the edge of my sleeve. So I'm going all the way around the sleeve with the right side up. This is my big ruffle first. Well, gather. My flounce. Trying to think of the word. It is a ruffle, I guess. Then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my smaller one, which jumped right in front, and I'm gonna put that one on top, also face up. And I'm going to use the same pins and pin both of them down together. After I've pinned all of them all the way down to the one side, I'm gonna go over to my sewing machine and baste them together, because then you're gonna sew the sleeve onto the bodice, and we don't want any of this gathered ruffle sleeves to move as you're trying to sew them on. So that's why you want to kind of go ahead and baste them on first, and then that way they won't move on you. So because I'm making them smaller size, I have on this ruffle, I have a little bit of ruffle hanging out at the end. I'm just gonna trim that. I'm not gonna worry about it. I think it's gathered enough. The more ruffle you gather, the more gathered it'll be in the look of, you know, like fluffier. So it's really up to you if you want to gather it all the way. I just trimmed that little bit off because I think it's gathered enough for me and I don't want to deal with it. Honestly, that's where it's at. And so I'm gonna finish that up. I'm gonna do the other sleeve. Well, I already did the other sleeve. I'm gonna baste them together and I'm going to sew those shoulders. I'm gonna be using a serger for the shoulders, but if you don't have a serger, a stretch stitch on your sewing machine will work just fine. All right, I'm going to grab my bodice and open it up. I like to trim these. And I'm gonna grab my sleeve with my ruffle already basted on. I'm gonna find my half right there. I'm gonna put right side of my ruffle and sleeve to the right side of my bodice. Match right there where I have my half, and then go down one side, touching those raw edges, and then down the other way, making sure my ruffles are sandwiched between my sleeve and my bodice. If you're not doing ruffles, then you won't have that ruffle right there. And if you're just doing ruffle without the sleeve, it will just be your ruffle to your bodice, both of your ruffles to your bodice. So you still want to baste both of those ruffles together. And right here, I basted my sleeve down accidentally. So I'm gonna pull this basting stitch off of here so my sleeve can actually come down where it's supposed to be. There it is. It was just a little piece right there. And then I'm gonna go do the same for the other side. And we're gonna go and sew that together. Okay, when you're sewing it together, make sure that your ruffle, like I said, is cut sandwiched between, so it's not gonna escape from under. I'll go ahead and sew those together. All right, so we can use a seam ripper to pull out all these basting stitches. And I usually like to do that when I'm like sitting in front of the TV watching a show or something. So I'll probably leave that for later. But look at how cute this is gonna be. Don't look at all the basting stitches, just look at the cuteness of these ruffles. I'm super excited. So let's move on to our neckband. And what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna grab my neckband. There's thread everywhere. So I'm gonna grab my neckband and I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together, long ways. And I'm gonna steam it and give it a memory crease. Now I'm gonna grab it and open it up and fold it right sides together, and I'm going to sew that raw edge real quick. Now we're gonna quarter our neckband. I'm gonna grab it, open it up, fold it at that where I made that crease, so wrong sides together again. And we're gonna go towards the front. Ooh. All right, we're gonna grab it and go towards the front and clip. And then we're gonna put that front and back together, and we're gonna go to the sides, clip and clip, and then we're gonna quarter our bodice. Again, I said it's just a little clip that I do. We're gonna grab our shoulder seams, we're gonna go to the back, just a little tiny clip, and then we're gonna go to the front. Then we're gonna put our front and back together and go to our sides, because our shoulder seams are not or quarters. It's a little bit off. The bigger sizes are more off, and if you go by just your shoulder seams, your neckband's gonna be a little bit off. We want a really good neckband, so we need to make sure that we go by our actual quarters. So here it is. We're gonna go ahead and grab our neckband and put it right sides together. I'm gonna put that seam in the back. That's how my son knows what's the back and the front, because I don't usually put tags on his clothes. So he was looking at his a pair of his Be Active shorts yesterday, and he's like, which one's the front? Because I just made him. Which one's the front? Which one's the back? And he's like, is this seam on the back? I'm like, yes. So that's how he knows now. So now that they all have been clipped, I'm gonna go over to my serger and sew our neckband on. So when I sew my neckband, I like my neckband to be up, and I place my neckband and my bodice right under my foot. I grab at my quarter point and even out all the raw edges together, and I sew. When I get to that quarter point, I remove that clip and go to the next quarter point and get it all fixed up and ready again. Match those raw edges, pull and sew. And then I go all the way around like that. Neckband's done. Time for our sash. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up my bodice. I'm gonna find my sash. So I've got my front sash, and here's my one. Oh, I guess I left it at the table, and my other strap. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my sash, I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together, and I'm gonna place it right on top of my bodice. And then I'm going to sew my sash onto my bodice. The first thing I wanna do is I'm gonna give it a good steam so it's right on my bodice. Make sure you're not bunching up your bodice as you're doing it. So I'm gonna sew it up here, and I'm gonna sew it down here. I'm probably going to do it on my cover stitch. Sew it on with my cover stitch. If you don't have a cover stitch, you can do your sewing machine. Okay, and once I'll do that, and then I'm also going to, you know what? I probably want to pin a little bit. I don't want it to get like stuck and move and wrinkle my bodice. So put some pins in there to help you keep it stable. And then I'm gonna go ahead and work on my sashes. So you should have two. I gotta find my other one. And you're going to fold it right sides together, and we're going to sew that raw edge down and then over. So we're gonna sew this closed, and I'm just gonna use my sewing machine for that because I'm using woven, but you could also use your serger. Sometimes I might just do my serger, so it goes ahead and finishes my raw edges. So down and over. Alrighty, we're gonna grab our so that's sewn on. We're gonna grab our ties and turn them right side out. As I'm turning them, I'm going to use just anything you want to use, anything you have to poke out those corners. Once my corners have been poked out and it's all turned around, I'm going to use my iron and give it a good steam. And then what I'm going to do is right here at the edge that is raw, I'm going to make it like a little pleat. So it's kind of gathered a little bit, because when I attach it to my bodice, it's going to be a little bit gathered. I want it to be about a half an inch, quarter inch to a half an inch away from the bottom raw edge. So that's why I'm giving it just a tiny bit of a gather. So it has like a little bit of, what do you call it? Like, it looks really cute. Anyway, but you don't want it to be, you want it to be about a quarter inch to a half an inch away from the bottom, because that is where we're gonna sew our skirt on, and you don't want it to be cut. Because we're gonna sew these sides together, I'm going to fold them after I do that. And I'm pinning them right sides together to my side of my bodice. And what I wanna do is, I wanna pin it, and then I wanna move that band out of the way. I'm gonna pin it at the middle so that my straps don't come falling out and get caught when I'm trying to sew my sides together. So now that that's right there, I'm going to put the bodice right on top, and I'm gonna sew, I'm gonna match right here at the armpit, and then I'm gonna go all the way down the side. All the way down the side and up the sleeve. So I'm gonna sew those together. Make sure you remove that pin when you're sewing. I do not wanna get over that pin with my serger and have it go flying. And also make sure that your ruffles are facing the right way. You want them to be facing down. I mean, you want them to be facing, you want the right side to be out. You don't want it to be facing the other way, the wrong side in, and then you see the wrong side of the ruffle. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew those, and then when I'm done sewing that, we're gonna go back and you can go ahead and hem your sleeve now, so with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Right, our bodice is done. We just need, I just need to hem the sleeves and work on those, removing those basting stitches, but everything else is done. I'm gonna keep this pinned up here so that when I go to sew my skirts on, it's out of the way still. So I'm gonna put this aside. That's gonna be super, super cute. And then I'm going to grab my skirt. This is my top skirt. And I'm gonna place both of the top skirts right side together. If you have a pattern, like this one has a pattern, make sure your pattern is going the right way. And I'm going to sew those side seams to create a, like a circle. And I'm gonna do this for both skirts. And I'm also going to hem my skirt. Now, if you want to do, like you hem the ruffles, if you have a knit fabric and you just want to do like a why do I always forget the name of that hem? A rolled hem, or leave it raw. You can with a knit. With a woven, you have to stitch it. So I'm going to do 1/4 inch up, and we're going to do that for both of our skirts. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my bottom skirt and my top skirt. I have all these little threads. And put my top skirt right on top of my bottom skirt. And I want both right sides to be facing out, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to gather both of these skirts together to fit my bodice. That took forever to say, huh? You were all like, to do what? To fit my bodice. Okay, so I'm aligning these raw edges, make sure they're aligned, and I'm gonna go over to my machine. But first off, I like to go ahead and find my halves, and I totally forgot to do that with my sleeves, so I am going to do it with my skirt so I don't forget. So match those seam allowances, the front and the sides, and then go to the front, and then go to the back and mark those, because that's gonna come in helpful when it's time for you to actually attach it to the bodice, when you have like your quarters all marked out. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna do a basting stitch, and like I said, I like to hold on to my thread at the top, and that kind of gathers it for me a little bit. But if not enough, then I go ahead and pull my bobbin and gather. You can actually gather it however you feel like it. If you want to do it on your serger, if you want to do it with elastic, whatever you want to do it with. There is a video on our YouTube channel that shows different ways to gather, so you can go check that out and figure out which one you like the most. So let's do it. All right, we are almost done. I'm grabbing my bodice, I'm putting it right here, and I'm going to make sure and gather the rest of my bodice, my skirt, to fit my bodice. So it needs to be gathered a little bit more, because as you can tell, it only gathered, well, it didn't gather enough because it's wider than my bodice. So let's go ahead and gather a little bit more. So my bodice is gathered the width, my skirt is gathered the width of my bodice. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fit my skirt over my bodice, matching those quarter points. Oh, I didn't quarter my bodice yet. I'm gonna grab my sides, put them together, go to the back and quarter, then bodice together, go to the front and quarter. Now remember, when you're sewing this on, don't trap your bands in there. Thread going everywhere. Okay, so I'm gonna pin it together or clip it, right sides together. All right, I'm gonna head over to my machine and sew those together and we'll be done. Yes. All right, friends, we are done. I just gotta go back and remove all those basting stitches all over the place and hem my sleeves, and we are done. How cute is this little thing? Adorable. I love it. I love the straps in the back. We can put a little cute bow back here, and yeah, I'm gonna take my time over here making this little bow. So cute. Okay, I'll have to go back and fix it, but super cute. I love it. Don't look at all the little basting stitches everywhere. I'm gonna pull all those out, but how cute is this? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything that I did. Comment, like, share, subscribe. If you're not part of our Facebook and Instagram page, come find us. Also, if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe so you can be entered for a fun fan giveaway that we do monthly. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!